Familiarity breeds contempt, but mystery breeds obsession. To be worshipped, one must first learn the art of being absent. The gods are powerful precisely because they are rarely seen. Balthasar Gracian. Understand this with brutal clarity. She will never perceive the exact moment the trap closed. The mechanism of attachment in the complex architecture of the female psyche does not operate as a cataclysmic event or a sudden explosion. It is a silent erosion, an invisible geological process occurring below the line of consciousness. The great flaw of most men lies in the naive belief that conquest is a battle won with visible, heroic acts. But the biological reality is much more subtle and dangerous. Everything begins almost imperceptibly, like a light wind touching the face on a summer day and vanishing immediately. The wind disappears, but the skin keeps the thermal memory, leaving the ghostly recollection of that touch. You need to reprogram your mind to understand that true female attachment is not born, and never was born, from grandiose gestures or public declarations of affection. It is built brick by brick in the silent and cumulative sum of small, microscopic attitudes. These are behavioral nuances that, when summed up, hack her limbic system, awakening a devastating emotional triad: security, curiosity, and above all, the most addictive element of human nature, mystery. It is fundamental to comprehend that a woman attaches herself to the man who makes her feel without her having the rational capacity to understand why that is happening. He is that man who invades her thoughts like a silent virus, making her think of him precisely when she swore to her friends and herself that she had completely forgotten him. This man awakens in her the visceral sensation of standing before something rare, a precious artifact difficult to find in a world of cheap copies and almost impossible to replace. To become this archetype, the first psychological maneuver you must execute with mastery is controlled unpredictability. The human brain is a pattern recognition machine. It ignores what is constant and focuses on what changes. Controlled unpredictability is the art of the tenuous balance between genuine interest and total detachment. Imagine a look that says clearly, "I see you, I desire you," penetrating her soul, and then, without warning, absolute silence that makes her plunge into an abyss of questions. Why did he disappear? This oscillation is not accidental. It is designed. A woman does not emotionally attach to the man who is always available, like a loyal servant awaiting orders. She attaches irremediably to the one who possesses the capacity to disappear at the exact moment. And he does not do this out of an inflated ego or immaturity, but through calculated emotional mastery. This man operates on a different frequency. He does not beg for attention. He does not chase like a desperate man, and he never explains himself. He understands, on an instinctive level, the inestimable value of mystery. And mystery, my dear, is the perfume of attraction. It is the oxygen that keeps the flame of interest burning. The psychological game here is one of progressive revelation. Every time she thinks she finally understands him, that she has assembled the puzzle of his personality, he subtly shows a new layer, contradicting the previous one. It is in this perpetual dance of curiosity and doubt that she begins to get deeply involved, without ever realizing she is entering a complex net, woven not by empty words, but by subtle vibrations operating in the subconscious. While she navigates this uncertainty, you must apply the second lever of power, magnetic presence. This transcends physical beauty or financial status. When this man is around, the chemistry of the environment changes. She feels something different, a density in the air. He does not try to be the center of attention, does not perform social juggling acts to be noticed, but curiously, everything around him seems to slow down, as if he had the power to bend time to his will. Observe the posture of this man. He listens with a disturbing calm, speaks little, economizing words as if they were gold, and looks into the eyes with a firmness that disarms any defense. His presence has weight, has its own gravity, has an absolute and unshakable focus. Unlike the majority of modern men, needy and anxious, he does not seek external approval. He emanates internal purpose. Women attach not to who speaks much and fills the silence with noise, but to who has the rare capacity to make time stop. In a chaotic world, the man who transmits stability amidst chaos awakens in them an unconscious, biological, and ancestral desire. The desire to remain close, to shelter in that rare energy, like someone seeking refuge from a storm. She may even leave, may talk to other men, may try to distract herself, but her body, on a cellular level, misses the specific vibration he carried. This is the type of magnetism not created with rehearsed, cheap seduction phrases, but with genuine self-command, the silent power of being present without needing to prove absolutely anything to anyone. And it is upon this solid base of presence that you build the third action, selective validation. The fatal error of the common man is being a universal donor of validation. He praises everything. He likes everything. He demonstrates interest in every banal detail, inflating her ego until he loses value. The magnetic man acts like an art curator. He does not praise everything, nor demonstrate interest in every detail. But attention, when he decides to validate something in her, the impact is nuclear. It is because he really saw, and she feels the authenticity of this act. She feels his gaze pierced the polished surface of her social persona and reached something deep, something no one else noticed. This surgical selectivity creates an invisible and exclusive bond. Behavioral psychology explains this. Scarce rewards are more valued. She begins to desire, with increasing hunger, to be seen again by that discerning gaze. The man who values little and speaks too much loses the power of rarity. He becomes background noise. But the man who speaks little and values only the essential creates an emotional addiction. This addiction begins to shape the architecture of her thought. She begins to desire to be recognized again, and attachment is born exactly there from that addictive sensation that he sees her in a unique way, a way the rest of the world is incapable of replicating. With time, her brain begins to chemically reprogram itself to seek his approval. Small intervals of absence, which before would be irrelevant, become intense periods of expectation. And the simple notification sound of a message from him triggers an immediate adrenaline discharge. It is the eternal game between cold and hot, between agonizing doubt and comforting certainty, that creates the most powerful and addictive chemistry existing in human relations. The woman attaches, inevitably, to the man who is not predictable, who maintains calm in his gaze, and who knows how to see what she herself has not yet perceived about her own essence. These first three actions form only the foundation, the beginning of the silent bond. Once created, this living organism grows alone, fed no longer by his actions, but by her own mind, which starts looking for him in every vague thought, in every silence of the dawn. She starts thinking of him in the most random moments possible, when the day is calm and nothing is happening, when she sees something on the street that reminds her of his way of walking, or when she misses a conversation that, on the surface, did not even seem so important. It is at this critical point that attachment begins to install itself like software in her operating system. And the most curious and fascinating aspect is that the more she tries to rationalize and fight against it, the deeper and tighter the loop becomes. This occurs because female attachment rarely is born from logical reason or spreadsheets of pros and cons. It is born from the violent contrast between what she feels viscerally and what she cannot understand intellectually. To deepen this abyss, the fourth action enters the scene: invisible emotional communication. The man who awakens deep attachment does not speak to be understood like a teacher or a reporter. He speaks to be felt. He does not explain himself. He expresses himself. He does not try to fill awkward silence with nervous chatter. He uses silence as a weapon. He inhabits it. Every word that leaves his mouth, every deliberate pause, every aversion of gaze creates a complex web of subtle meanings. She cannot explain logically why she feels a chill down her spine or heat in her chest when he speaks. But she feels it. It is the tone of voice, the unshakable firmness, the cadenced rhythm. It is the way he says something trivial with an energy that conveys total dominance of the situation. The woman, upon perceiving this frequency, starts associating his presence with an altered emotional state, superior to the gray everyday. It is as if he were the human trigger, the button that changes her vibrational frequency instantly. And this is the great secret. He does not seek to provoke her childishly. He only speaks with pure intention, and her unconscious reacts as if it were being touched physically, a caress on the mind. She can try to resist, can try to focus on work, but his voice keeps echoing in her mind in an infinite loop. The words return during the shower, invade the mind before sleep, appear while she drives home. Attachment grows exponentially in absence, and the absence of this specific man is more intense and present than the physical presence of a crowd. Because when he vanishes, she misses something she does not understand. And the human psyche is programmed to become obsessed with what it cannot decipher. What is not understood is what binds most. To sustain all this structure of tension and desire, the fifth action is necessary: emotional coherence. This is the pillar of security. He is the same when he is happy, sad, irritated, or silent. His essence does not fluctuate. He does not change his personality like a scared chameleon according to her unstable mood, and this creates something incredibly rare: emotional predictability within behavioral unpredictability. She feels in her gut that she can trust his energy, even without knowing what the next step or the next word will be. Women attach desperately to emotionally consistent men because they transmit psychological security related to survival. While most men react to any stimulus like leaves in the wind, he observes like a mountain. While most try to resolve everything on impulse in the desperation to fix the moment, he waits for the right tactical moment. This stoic calm awakens the female instinct of surrender, the ancestral impulse to connect to something solid, firm, stable in a liquid world. With time, she starts adjusting her own emotions around him, orbiting his stability. When she is anxious, she seeks his tranquility. When she is confused, she remembers his words. When she feels insecure, she looks for his gaze like a lighthouse. Attachment installs itself definitely when she realizes he does not need to be physically present to be felt. He has become omnipresent in her mind. He occupies a symbolic space within her, transforming into a living archetype of security and mystery. She no longer knows how to distinguish if she wants him, the person, or if she wants what he awakens inside her. And finally, we arrive at the sixth action, the most subtle, dangerous, and powerful of all: calculated absence. The common man, the amateur, disappears out of immaturity, fear, or childish games. The man who understands the game in depth disappears out of wisdom. He knows the inestimable value of distance. His absence is not rejection, and she feels that. It is pure emotional strategy. While she begins to get used to the comfortable sensation of having him close, he pulls away enough, just what is necessary, so that her brain reactivates the search system, the subtle panic of loss. Love and attachment are, in the end, fruits of the same brutal chemical process, dopamine mixed with uncertainty. The man who understands this alchemy needs to do nothing other than control the rhythm of the interaction. He becomes like an addictive song she wants to hear again, but that never plays to the end, never fully resolves itself. A verse, a chord, a pause suspended in the air is always missing. And it is in this pause, in this vacuum, that overwhelming desire is born. The more she tries to fill this space, the more caught she becomes in the web. The secret is of terrifying simplicity. The man who masters absence becomes the eternal presence in her mind. By this point, she is already emotionally conditioned, like in a Pavlovian experiment. Her heart races out of rhythm when the cell phone vibrates. The body responds biologically before the rational mind processes. His name ceased to be a noun. It became a biochemical trigger. And the most fascinating thing of all is that it was built not with grandiose promises of eternal love, but with silent gestures. He promised nothing, and because of that, paradoxically, everything she feels seems like the purest truth, because what is subtle does not seem like manipulation. It seems like destiny written in the stars. Female attachment is like a perfume that remains impregnated in the air even after the person leaves. It is invisible to the eyes, but undeniably present to the senses. And when he perceives, with his sharp intuition, that she has already started to miss him, he does not change the rhythm. He does not despair. He remains the same, calm, firm, intentional. Because the secret is not to run when she demonstrates interest, but to maintain the same beat, the same sovereign energy. This creates the paradox that imprisons her.
She feels she conquered him,
but knows deep down that she does not possess him. He knows that every subtle action strengthens the invisible bond. When he speaks, his words have the weight of law. When he is silent, the silence has deep meaning, and gradually she begins to adapt to his frequency in a species of symbiosis. This is the beginning of emotional fusion, the critical moment when her nervous system responds to his presence as if it were something natural, necessary for her homeostasis. The body learns before the mind, and her body already recognizes his vibration as vital. She begins to try to justify this obsessive interest with rational reasons. He is different. He has something mysterious. He gives me a peace that no one else gives. But do not be fooled. All this is just mental translations, late rationalizations of a connection that was born in the dark depths of the unconscious. His energy, the penetrating gaze, the deep tone of voice, the deliberate way of moving, all this is recorded in her memory as a unique vibrational signature. And that is why, even if he physically moves away, she feels the connection. He does not need to be close. It is enough that he exists in the world. Female attachment grows in the gaps, in the negative space, in what he does not say, in what he does not explain, in what he purposefully leaves open. Mystery is not about hiding dirty secrets. It is about leaving space for her imagination to work in his favor. The man who explains everything kills the fascination instantly. What is revealed little by little in homeopathic doses creates desire, and desire is the oxygen that keeps attachment alive. She starts reliving old conversations, dissecting messages, looking for hidden signs, and interpreting silences. Her brain activates the dopamine circuit, the same system responsible for a substance addiction. Every interaction turns into an unpredictable micro-reward, and every absence becomes a withdrawal crisis. This is not cruelty. It is human nature operating in its raw state. Her emotions follow the biological pattern of stimulus and uncertainty. And the man who understands this cycle does not use it to manipulate in a vile way, but to guide the intensity of the relationship like a conductor. At some point, inevitably, she will try to test this power structure. She will pull away a little, will purposely delay responding, will feign indifference to see if he breaks. But he does not react. He does not crumble. He continues centered, unshakable, as if he were operating on another level of reality, immune to mundane games. This is the inflection point that differentiates a common man from a magnetic man. He does not fight for control over her because he already has absolute control over himself, and self-command is the purest and unquestionable form of power. She realizes, scared and fascinated, that she cannot mess with him emotionally as she does with other men. And this intrigues her deeply, because the feminine is biologically attracted to the challenge, not the gross challenge of bad boys, but the emotional challenge of the rock that does not move with the tide. The man who is not easily shaken awakens the irresistible impulse to be deciphered. And it is in this futile attempt to understand what passes in his mind that attachment transforms into fascination. Fascination is the point of no return. It is the event horizon. She starts seeing in him something almost symbolic, a living archetype. He represents strength, mystery, presence. And the more she tries to understand rationally, the deeper she falls emotionally. He does not try to be perfect, is not a Disney prince. He is real, but real with an aura of supernatural control, as if he lived in a world she desperately wants to explore.
This type of man becomes a mirror.
He awakens in her parts that were dormant, latent, primal desire, instinct, intellectual curiosity, the yearning to feel something deep. She feels alive, electric when she is with him. And this, my friend, is the most dangerous addiction that exists, because no one can detach themselves from what makes them feel alive. And that is why, when he moves away, She feels as if she had lost a vital part of herself, like a phantom limb. The brain confuses his absence with the absence of the very vital energy he awakened in her. And so, attachment consolidates as an absolute truth. It is no longer about him. It is about what she became because of him. Female attachment, when it reaches this boiling point, is already a complete and autonomous emotional phenomenon. She begins to mold herself unconsciously around his energy. Schedules adjust, thoughts reorganize, desires change direction. Everything points to him. Even without realizing it, she starts living in function of the mere possibility of connection. A simple look, a short message, a vague memory that arises in the middle of the day. Everything is sufficient fuel to reignite the internal fire. The most curious thing is that he does not need to do anything different or spectacular. He merely maintains the state of presence. And this is what binds most, because the human being gets addicted to constancy when it comes from someone unpredictable. His presence is like a safe harbor amidst an emotional storm she did not even know she had inside her. When she speaks, he listens with full attention. When she cries, he does not try to fix the problem. He understands. When she provokes him, he just smiles. This type of response breaks all the emotional patterns and scripts she knows. She is used to seeing men reacting, explaining themselves, losing control, getting angry. But this man, no. He observes, and his gaze conveys something no saccharine gesture of affection can substitute: power over himself. And when she feels this power emanating from him, attachment transforms into something greater: admiration. Admiration is the nuclear fuel of the bond. She wants to be close to him, not only for carnal desire, but because she feels he represents something elevated she would like to reach: strength, stability, absolute presence. This is the point where physical desire fuses with the emotional, and the emotional with the spiritual. She begins to see him as a kind of evolutionary mirror, and the man who awakens this type of complex sentiment in a woman becomes, by definition, unforgettable. When he moves away, her world loses saturation, loses color. Conversations with others seem shallow, trivial. Compliments from other men sound false, hollow, because none of them carries the same dense, energetic field he created. She tries to replace him, tries to rationalize, tries to move on, but the body does not lie. The body feels withdrawal from his frequency, and he knows this. But instead of using this to dominate tyrannically, he continues living his life with unshakable purpose. He understands that real power is not possessing someone's body, but awakening the soul. The man who awakens the feminine creates deep roots in the unconscious. It is not her body that desires him. It is the soul that recognizes him. That is why
The more he focuses on his own journey, the more he elevates himself, the stronger the bond becomes. His energy rises, and she feels this ascension, even at a distance, in an almost quantum connection. It is as if something in her vibrated in tune, in resonance with what he represents. She feels pride, curiosity, desire, and fear of loss, all mixed in an emotional cocktail.
And the most paradoxical thing is that the more he distances himself emotionally, maintaining his autonomy, the more she feels she needs to get closer. Because the female instinct recognizes the inestimable value of what is rare, and the rare never chases anyone. With time, her mind begins to create internal stories, personal mythologies. She remembers moments, loose phrases, gestures, and gives them deep meanings that did not always exist in reality. Attachment is now fed by imagination, the most powerful force of the mind. And the man who understands this never tries to explain or correct, because he knows mystery is infinitely stronger than the naked and raw truth. The female mind prefers the symbolic to the logical. She binds to what she feels in her guts, not what she understands in the cortex. And the man who manages to make her feel without understanding becomes a personal legend to her, unforgettable. But what deepens the attachment most, the coup de grace, is when he shows, in rare and precious moments, vulnerability. Not weakness, but raw humanity. A moment of shared silence, a sincere and disarmed look, a light confession. This breaks the barrier of the unattainable persona and touches the essence. She feels she saw the man behind the myth. And when a woman sees this, she wants to stay, not out of neediness, but because she feels truth resides there. And truth, when it emerges amidst mystery, creates the most powerful and indestructible bond that exists. He does not need to say, "Stay with me." She simply stays. Even when she tries to leave, logic says go, but instinct says stay, because now it is no longer a rational choice. It is a biological imperative. There comes a point where attachment becomes silence. She no longer needs to talk about him to friends. He lives inside her. He is in the subtext of her life, in random thoughts, in involuntary comparisons with every man who crosses her path. When she hears a specific song, when she smells a familiar scent, when she sees something that reminds her of that look, something wakes up deep down. It is as if he had left an energetic mark, a branding iron, a symbol engraved in the unconscious. And this mark does not leave easily, perhaps never leaves, because it was built with three rare elements in the era of haste and superficiality: intention, calm, and mystery. The man who awakens this type of attachment understands that true power is not in being desired momentarily, but in being remembered eternally. Desire is a straw flame, momentary. Memory is an ember, eternal. And the memory that binds is the one that mixes pleasure with doubt, security with uncertainty, presence with absence. This dynamic contrast is what makes the female brain latch on, because it recreates the emotional roller coaster that activates the deep circuits of passion. She starts mentally revisiting every detail, like someone watching a movie repeatedly. The contained smile, the analytical way he looked at her, the way he seemed always one step ahead in the chess of interaction. And the more she tries to understand the logic behind it, the more the mystery grows. Attachment at this stage becomes almost a spiritual experience. She feels he is not just a man of flesh and bone. He is a portal, a symbol of what is rare, of what is strong, of what is impossible to dominate. He, in turn, remains centered on his axis. He does not need to run or prove anything. His absence is sufficient presence, and this confuses and attracts her in equal measure. How can someone be so strong in silence? She asks herself. It is at this point that the bond becomes eternal, even if there is no more physical contact, because he did not become a commonplace habit. He became a transformative experiences. And remarkable experiences are not erased. They integrate into identity. They shape who the person becomes afterward. She changes. She gets more selective, more demanding, more introspective. No other man seems to reach the same level of depth or gravity. She compares, even without wanting to, and what was attachment transforms into absolute reference. He becomes her internal standard, the ruler by which all others will be measured and will fail. And the most ironic thing of all this journey is that he never promised anything, never said, "I will love you forever," never begged, "Stay with me." He just existed with total presence. And true presence is the rarest thing of the 21st century. Most people are always absent from themselves, speaking without feeling, touching without being there, promising without intention to fulfill. But not him. He is whole in every minimal gesture, in every look. And this is what binds most: radical authenticity. Because when the feminine feels there is truth, it surrenders. And when there is surrender, attachment ceases to be a choice. She may even try to forget him, follow life, but there will always be a moment, sometimes a distracted second on a rainy day, when his name will cross the mind like a soft lightning bolt. And there, in that fleeting instant, she feels again everything she thought she had already left behind, intact. This is the devastating power of the 6 actions. They do not conquer by force. They plant seeds. And what is planted with presence grows inside the soul, creating roots that cannot be pulled out. He does not bind with promises, but with sensations. Not with words, but with energy. Not with neediness, but with abundance. And when she perceives the dimension of this, it is already too late. He became part of her fabric. And paradoxically, it is this freedom of his that makes him irresistible. Because true power is not making someone love you under emotional coercion. It is making someone never forget you. He follows his lifelight, calm, conscious of his value. She follows hers, trying to understand what happened, but deep down, both know the truth. It was not luck. It was not chance. It was pure vibration. It was the archetypal meeting between the masculine that dominates himself and the feminine that seeks to find itself. And when these two poles touch, something awakens that has no name or logical explanation, only presence. Time passes, inexorable. Perhaps she loves others, lives other stories, smiles calling other names. But inside her, in some secret and protected place, there is an echo that is not extinguished, an echo that whispers, "At some moment, I felt something real, and it was with him." Time passes, and what before was intensity is now crystallized memory. But memories are seeds, and some continue germinating even in absolute silence. She lives other stories, meets other faces, but none of them awakens the same type of vibration in the spine. None looks the same way, none speaks with the same sovereign calm. And it is there that the true power of his presence reveals itself in its totality. He does not need to be to continue existing. The attachment he built was not only emotional, it was energetic. It was the result of the alchemical sum between absence, presence, and mystery. Her body reacted to his look before she even consciously perceived. The unconscious already recognized the vibrational field he emanated, and that is why, even distant for years, he continues echoing in her like a radio frequency difficult to turn off. She feels his trail in small things, in the long and awkward pauses of other men, in purposeless looks, in touches without soul. Nothing else reaches the same level of intensity because now the pattern is engraved by fire. The man who understands this does not play with emotions in a frivolous way. He orchestrates energies. He does not control the woman, he influences the environment. He does not force the door, only allows her to enter. And because of this, everything he does seems natural, inevitable, like gravity. Women do not attach only to the man himself, but to the specific sensation he awakens in them. And the sensation he leaves is of rare depth, something that transcends body desire and touches the spirit's needs. She feels she knew him before, somewhere, in another time, as if the meeting were an inevitable event of destiny. In moments of lucidity, in the dead of night, she tries to understand the reason for all this. Why him? She asks herself. But there is no logical answer, because true attachment is not born from the Cartesian mind. It is born from instinct, resonance, unconscious recognition between two opposite poles that attract. He is the centered, firm, magnetic masculine, the rock. She is the fluid, intense, sensitive feminine, the sea. And when the masculine remains unshakable before the force of the feminine's waves, she feels something the modern world almost destroyed: instinctive respect. Respect is the deepest and final stage of attachment. She no longer sees him as a simple man full of defects, but as a symbol. And symbols do not die. Symbols stay in the soul, molding the way she perceives all the rest of the world. Because of him, she starts demanding more, not only from other men, but from herself. She wants to feel again that type of presence, that gaze that traverses, that energy that silences internal chaos instantly. But few men have this, because few have the self-command necessary to sustain this energy. And self-command is the only thing that differentiates the common man from the unforgettable. Time can pass, bodies can change and age, voices can be lost in auditory memory, but the sensation remains intact. She does not remember him with melancholic longing, but with vibrant intensity. It is not nostalgia, it is living memory. It is as if he had left in her an echo, an archetype, an energetic property mark. And every time she meets a new man, her subconscious scans and looks for the same pattern, the same calm, the same mystery, the same firmness. And when it does not find it, it misses something it does not even know how to name. That is how deep attachment is recognized, not by presence, but by the absence that continues pulsing like an open wound or an extra heart. And he follows his life, perhaps without imagining how much he became a fundamental part of her history. But true power is not in knowing what she feels to validate one's own ego. It is in not needing to know. Because the man who awakens true attachment does not desperately seek to be remembered. He simply is. And being is the apex of conquest. He continues being an enigma, not by cheap strategy, but by essence. His energy is stable, his gaze is tranquil, his silence is full of meaning. While others scream and make a fuss to be noticed, he speaks little and is impossible to forget. He understands that the real value of a man is not in the attention he manages to steal, but in the calm he manages to transmit. And this calm is what binds most. A woman can even fall in love momentarily with who moves her and amuses her, but she attaches for real, for life, to who pacifies her. Deep down, attachment is an unconscious search for peace, and the man who has peace inside himself becomes the supreme refuge. No matter what he says, what he does, or how long he stays away, she will always remember the feeling of being in absolute peace when she was with him. And it is this feeling that makes her return, even if only in thought, because the body desires pleasure, but the soul desires rest. And when someone offers this, the bond is eternal. At some moment, she understands that what she felt for him was not conventional love. It was recognition. Recognition of a rare energy, of a silent power, of a presence that demands nothing in return. And this is what makes her remember him with a type of secret reverence that mixes longing and deep gratitude. She does not hate him, does not forget him, only carries him with her, as if a part of him had been grafted inside her, and she had learned something fundamental about herself through him. And perhaps this is the final and transcendental purpose of true attachment: to transform. She entered into contact with him seeking fleeting emotion and left knowing oceanic depth. He touched something no one else had touched, and from there on, she will never be the same woman. Because the man who knows how to become an experience is never replaced. He is remembered as ground zero, the one who came before the change, the one who awakened, the one who made her feel what the world had put to sleep. And one day, when he is distant, living his own legend, perhaps she smiles alone, remembering what she lived, and understands the final truth, that deep down, he was never hers. He was a mirror. And what she really loved was the part of herself, powerful and feminine, that he, and only he, managed to reveal.